Well, hi everybody. Welcome to what is not the live cast. Hopefully you've been tuning in over the past few weeks to see the interviews we've been doing. If you haven't checked those out, do go back and find them on the livecast playlist on Facebook, or you can find them on our YouTube channels. Glenn and I were all kind of off now on holidays and doing various things for the summer. So rather than being live this week, we're still going to be putting out some stuff Tuesday lunchtimes. And over the last, 2 months or so, my church has been doing a series on the Sermon on the Mount, and I've preached 3 sermons as part of that. So I thought on Tuesday lunchtimes I would deliver those sermons to you, and hopefully you'll find them edifying. So you won't get all of the Sermon on the Mount, but you'll get parts of it. So starting off, I had the kind of opening talk of the Sermon on the Mount with the Beatitudes. So let me read to you Matthew chapter 5. Verses 1 to 12, which I'll be speaking on. I'm reading from the ESV, that's my evangelical snob version. Seeing the crowds, he went up on the mountain, and when he sat down, his disciples came to him. And he opened his mouth and he taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is in heaven. For so they persecuted the prophets who were before you. So here we are right at the beginning of the Sermon on the Mount. And we're thinking about these famous kind of blessings here in the Beatitudes. And it got me thinking, what does the world consider to be blessed? I wonder if you could think to yourself for a moment, what do you think the world would consider as blessed? And it got me thinking about the way we use the word blessed or bless in society. Sometimes we would say today, don't we, bless. And what we really mean by that is like, oh, how sweet, you might say about a kid or something. Or we say bless you when we sneeze. I don't really know why we say bless you when we sneeze. Milhouse on The Simpsons said that when you sneeze, it's your soul trying to escape your body, and saying God bless you crams it back inside. I'm not sure what his theological basis is for that though. But I guess if you were to say, what does the world think of when it's thinking of being blessed? It's thinking of those who are doing very well. And so I thought to myself, if we could rewrite the modern Beatitudes from the world's point of view, what would it say? And so here's my modern day Beatitudes for you. Blessed are the famous, for they shall be loved by all. Blessed are the confident, for they shall go out and get what they want. Blessed are the sexually active, for they and they alone shall be satisfied. Blessed are the rich, for they can get on the property ladder and still afford a nice car. Blessed are those with good genes, for they shall not sag as the rest of us sag. Blessed are those with perfect bodies, for they shall have beach body confidence. Blessed are the healthy, for they know not the NHS waiting list. And blessed are those who can afford a foreign holiday, for they shall never endure butlins. I haven't actually got anything against butlins. But I guess those are the kind of things the world would say, isn't it? When it's thinking about who is blessed, the world thinks certain types of people are blessed. It's generally people who are doing quite well in life. And here, kind of in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus has been teaching and healing in the area, and crowds kind of gather. And we're told that Jesus goes up on the mountain here to begin what is kind of this Sermon on the Mount. And the Sermon on the Mount, maybe you think of it as his kind of manifesto for kind of kingdom living. But it's important to notice that actually the Sermon on the Mount is aimed at the disciples. So in verse 1 and 2, it says, he went up on the mountain, and when he sat down, his disciples came to him, and he opened his mouth and taught them, saying. So it's for the believer. And Jesus starts speaking, doesn't he, here, about people who are blessed. And we get these 8 sayings, or maybe 9, depending on how you want to divide it up. Let's call it 8 and a bonus. You get these 8 sayings that follow this particular pattern. So Jesus gives us a description, doesn't he, of the person who is blessed. And then he says why it is that they're blessed. Now, I suppose the simplest way to think about what blessed means from a biblical point of view is it's a state of being, a present and continuous reality. It's not a changeable feeling or emotion. But to be blessed is really to be highly favoured by God, quite simply. So I wonder, let's have a look at how does Jesus's list tally with what we might say today? Well, he starts off, doesn't he, talking about blessed are the poor in spirit. And he's not talking about those who are low in spirit or simply like that. He must be talking about believers, because actually he says theirs is the kingdom. It'd be strange to say that about those who aren't believers. And I actually think all these Beatitudes are about believers and need to be applied to them. But he's saying blessed is the person who recognises their sin, recognises their guilt, their pollution, their bankruptness, their empty-handedness, the one who comes and recognises, I have nothing. They're humble before God. And in many ways, I guess you can't really be a Christian without having recognised that anyway. But that's completely countercultural, isn't it, to say that that's blessed? Think how desperate we are to put out an image that says we all have something to contribute. We want people to see that we've got something. Think about how many people lie on their CVs and say they've got experience or skills that they just don't have. And they do it because, no one wants to hire someone who can't contribute anything, who brings nothing to the plate. The problem is, we just don't necessarily realise that we are empty-handed. It says in Revelation 3:17, you say I'm rich, I have everything I want, I don't need a thing. And you don't realise that you're wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked. See, we can either be unaware of our spiritual poverty, or we just won't admit it. And so here Jesus just bars the way to those of us who are proud. But he says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Present tense, theirs is the kingdom of heaven now. And we kind of go, really? Like, really, Jesus? Those guys? But what we're seeing here is that Jesus he just takes our world and he turns it upside down. Or maybe it's the right way up. He goes on there and needs to say that blessed are those who mourn. And you just think, well, this just sounds crazy because mourning's not good. All of us have probably experienced the pain of grief in some way. And we just wouldn't say, what a blessing that's been. But again, Jesus is talking about the believer, and he must be talking here, I think, about a sense of ongoing sorrow for our sin. Not just like once I felt bad about sin, but recognizing our sinfulness before God and being grieved by it, that we are offending God. And I think that's a biblical thing. David mourned his sin with Bathsheba. Peter mourned his sin where he denied Christ, mourned him with tears. And I think, actually we see the true believer recognizes that they have nothing and is grieved by their failure. And, maybe you've experienced times in your life when you've been very aware of that, been very aware of your sinfulness and it's grieved you. But you still want to say, okay, but fair enough, but why is that a blessing? Well, Jesus says, for they shall be comforted. So they're blessed now, blessed are, but they shall be comforted. It's a future thing. And Jesus is saying, look, mourning is going to continue for a time. But actually, one day that sin will be completely removed. And it's not that our mourning is simply just taken away, but in some sense that there's a blessedness that occurs in that mourning of our sin. And that somehow that future hope transforms our present experience of mourning sinfulness. And I reckon we've already got a sense of that. In our experience of being justified or forgiven, we recognise we are justified, we are forgiven. But we know one day we're going to see the full completion of that. But again, this is completely counterintuitive, isn't it? Jesus turns the world upside down. Or maybe it's the right way up. Goes on, doesn't he? Blessed are the meek. That's another characteristic that puzzles us, isn't it? I suppose, the most simple way of describing someone who's meek is as gentle or humble or friendly. Again, all characteristics of a Christian believer. But I don't know about you, but when I think of people who are meek, it makes me think of people, who are basically just a bit of a wet blanket who, get walked all over. But actually, Jesus was meek. And people like Paul were meek. And those guys were not pushovers. And we're told actually it's them, it's the meek who shall inherit the earth. You just think, what? If you asked people, who's going to inherit the earth? Surely we'd say, well, it's going to be the physically strong, it's the powerful, it's those who can compete in a dog-eat-dog world, kill or be killed. They've got killer instincts. You wouldn't say it's going to be the meek, would you? It just seems so backwards. But, it makes me think a bit of that T-shirt. Maybe you've seen this T-shirts that say, the Geek shall inherit the earth. It's that play on words, isn't it, of the meek. the geek shall inherit the earth. And it's funny because it's true. In our kind of IT tech-driven world, it's the geeks who've come out on top. These kind of scrawny nerds getting excited at HTML code, needing to puff on their asthma inhalers, they win. 50 years ago, that would have just seemed laughable, wouldn't it? Didn't look advantageous to be a geek, but of course look now. And maybe we look at this and we say, I don't think it's very advantageous to be meek. Gentleness and humility never got anybody anywhere. If you want something, of course, you've got to go out and you've got to earn it. And you don't earn it by being meek. But actually, we're told here, the meek don't earn anything, do they? They inherit. And you don't inherit because you earned something. You inherit because of who you are. And actually, it says here, they will inherit the earth. They'll inherit the new creation. So once again, Jesus turns our world upside down. Or maybe it's the right way up. Goes on, doesn't he, to say that blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, or as my phone auto-corrected it to, blessed are those who are ginger and thirst for righteousness. I'm sure ginger people are very blessed as well, but it's not really what Jesus was talking about. But you think again, what would the world say that you should hunger and thirst for? I guess it would be power and money and status and those kind of things. That's the kind of thing that comes to mind, isn't it? And you'd say that's what ambitious people want. And we talk, don't we, about people who are ambitious. We say they're hungry for it. Maybe they want that job, that promotion, or they want a place on the team. They're on X Factor. They're hungry for it, a singing career. And that's what we think of when we're told to hunger and thirst for righteousness. But actually not in that way, not in a kind of go and get your reward type thing. But actually we hunger and thirst in the same way a beggar hungers and thirsts, like people who are depending on someone else to provide for them. So the meek, poor in spirit person, mourning their sin, knows their need for righteousness. But it's worth thinking just for a second, what is righteousness? Well, in verses 10 and 11, it says, blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake. And then Jesus says, blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. And I think we're supposed to see there that being persecuted for righteousness' sake and for Jesus' account are equivalents. It's the same thing. So when Jesus says that we ought to hunger and thirst for righteousness, it's not some abstract kind of characteristic. We're hungering and thirsting for a person. The Christian is the person who craves Jesus because they're at the end of themselves. And it says when we do that, we will be filled. We'll be satisfied when we have Jesus. And of course, we have him now. In fully, we have Jesus. We have that. But of course, there is a day when we'll experience the full reality of that even more so. And we'll never thirst again. So Jesus just turns our world upside down. Or maybe it's the right way up. It goes on, doesn't he? Blessed are those who are merciful. And you and I, we love mercy, don't we? Sometimes. Like we love mercy when it's applied to us, but we don't like mercy so much when it's applied to other people. Because being merciful in our world is not really seen as a good thing, is it? It's seen as being weak. And, I find it in myself. I think if I show mercy to this person, if I let them off, then they'll never learn, and I kind of want people to get their comeuppance. I want justice. I think that's sometimes built into us, isn't it? But Jesus says, blessed are those who are merciful, for they shall receive mercy. And I think there's this kind of cycle going on here. That, as a Christian, we receive mercy, so we don't get what we deserve. And because we've received that mercy, that in turn makes us merciful. And so we receive mercy upon mercy in this kind of cycle. So again, though, it's countercultural. Jesus turns our world upside down. Or maybe it's the right way up. He goes on, doesn't he? Blessed are those who are pure in heart. Now, the word for pure here just means clean. And I guess when we think about being pure in heart, we might think, I need to be pure. We can be tempted to try and make ourselves pure. And the problem is we can change our behavior, but we can't change our hearts. Think about Jesus talking to the Pharisees. They're like dirty cups. On the outside they're all clean, but on the inside they're dirty, or they're like whitewashed tombs. There's death and decay on the inside. It looks good on the outside, though. But David says in Psalm 51, verse 10, create in me a clean heart, O God. create in me. A pure heart needs to be created, needs to be given to them. And actually, we see that in Ezekiel 36. God gives people a new heart. It needs to come from outside of us. And it says, those who have a pure heart shall see God. And it makes me think of Psalm 24. It says, who shall ascend the hill of the Lord, and who shall stand in his holy place? He who has clean hands and a pure heart. Who's the one who can stand in the holy place? It's the one with a pure heart. That's the person who can be in the presence of God. And actually, only Jesus can really ever say that he is the one with a pure heart. But Jesus gives us his heart. There's not much emphasis in our world today, really, on having a pure heart, because we basically just think it means good behavior. But actually, this is deeper. This is about being clean on the inside and the outside. So again, Jesus turns the world upside down. Or maybe it's the right way up. And then Jesus says, blessed are the peacemakers. You think, well, what do you mean by peace? You know, we talk about Nobel Peace Prize winners here. Are they the people who are blessed? Well, I don't think that's the case, because Jesus didn't really come to bring that kind of peace, did he? He didn't come to bring peace between Jerusalem and Rome. He came to bring peace between man and God. And I think, you know, we're blessed as peacemakers because we, as 2 Corinthians 5 says, we now share in that ministry of reconciliation. So we're blessed as we share the good news. And it says we will be called children of God. And that's a privilege, isn't it? It's a privilege to be the child of a powerful one. You think of that famous photo of JFK sitting in his office, the Oval Office, as President of the United States of America. And under his desk is one of his children, his son. I'm not sure which one it is. And you just think, you know, look, people get a moment with the president. But as a child, that child has unlimited access to the president. He has a different relationship. And actually, that's the relationship we have with our Heavenly Father as believers. And he says, blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake. You know, what do we get then for being peacemakers? We're going to get persecuted. And, you know, we know that probably, that the Christian life is going to bring trouble because it goes against the grain of the world. And Jesus says, this is blessed. And the problem is, it doesn't feel very blessed, does it, when you're going through it? It feels pretty bad. But it's blessed because actually it's the pattern of Jesus' life, isn't it? You know, no one was more highly favoured by God than Jesus. And yet he experienced the worst persecution. And now because we are in Christ, we share in his sufferings. The pattern of his life is the pattern of our life. And actually for us, that is just another proof that the kingdom really is ours. So again, Jesus turns the world upside down. Or maybe it's the right way up. And then we get verse 11. We've kind of gone through those ones which have this same pattern. Then verse 11, Jesus says, blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven, for so they persecuted the prophets who were before you. I think here Jesus is, this verse is very much for those disciples sitting there in front of him. I mean, it's all at the disciples. But some of those things are very specific to what they face. They're going to go on to face martyrdom. But Jesus says, you know what, that has always been the pattern of the godly. It was the same with the prophets before you. And so rejoice. Rejoice in these blessings because they are blessings. And so that kind of brings Jesus' kind of opening salvo of this Sermon on the Mount to a close. And what we've seen really is that the world, as the world looks at things, the world thinks certain types of people are blessed. We think about those modern Beatitudes we were talking about. What we see here is that God's criteria for blessing is very different to the world's. And it's important to remember actually that these Beatitudes, they're not different types of people. It's not like we're sitting in church on a Sunday and we go, well, there's Ethel over there and she's very meek. And there's, you know, Brian over there and, you know, he's a real peacemaker. These are things that should be the characteristics of all kingdom people. We should have all of these things because actually this is what kingdom living looks like. And it's upside down compared to the world. And it made me think of a song. When we were at New Wine a few years ago, my children went to the kids clubs every day and they were singing this children's song day in, day out and for weeks afterwards as well. But as I was preparing this, it brought to mind this song and I went and looked it up and I thought, yes, this is so right. And let me read you the chorus of this song. I'm not going to sing it for you. But it says this: it's a topsy-turvy, curly-whirly, crazy kind of place where the weak are strong and the first are last and the slowest one wins the race. It's an upside down and inside out, back to front kind of thing, because everything is possible in the presence of the King. I thought, you know what, actually, yeah, that is so true. It's not, and as we look at these things, it's not about us now going, wow, I really need to be like this and I must try harder. These things are only possible in the presence of the King. If we come to Jesus, Jesus isn't giving these things as a push for us to try harder in order to change ourselves, but he wants to show us who we already are in Christ and make us realize our continued need for him. So you and I, we might be tempted to go for the blessings of the world, because the blessings of the world are attractive and they're just imminent, they're tangible, you can grab them. But actually this shows us God blesses that which the world wouldn't consider blessed. And actually those blessings are far greater than what the world can offer.